The pain of loss is easy to fall prey to in an atmosphere such as this. It's gray, snowy, wet, and a pain to drive anywhere. And school has never been an easy experience for me. So the pain of loss follows me everywhere, pretty much everywhere I go. It's different for everyone. Everyone has different circumstances in which loss enters their lives, but what's the same for everybody is that it's always a big deal. As someone who has had their world flipped upside down from the passing of my father this summer, I want to extend to you, the viewer, some wisdom that I and a few others have gained through our experiences with one of the most trying experiences that anybody will ever have to go through. My dad had been sick for pretty much as long as I'd known him. Having been diagnosed with CLL at such a young age, medical problems followed him for as long as he lived, and we had to experience that together as a family. We were close to death. We had been for a long time, but it never occurred to me just how sick my dad was, that after a particularly gnarly ankle break, that would weaken his immunity enough to have the supposedly in some sort of remission leukemia to come back. But I'd say my first real bout with coming to terms with the mortality of a parent came from when my friend Jacob, his mother, passed away.
So my name is Jacob Marks. I'm 22 years old, and I lost my mom, Bernadine Zimpel, about 2 years ago, back in 2020, October 2nd. Like a big part in me healing and trying to recover is actually just being around my family. So I basically dropped out that semester and came back home and just kind of hung out with my family and was there for them. Luckily, I didn't work or anything, so I just had a lot of time to self-reflect and kind of process what had gone on. But I think losing a parent, losing that person who helps grow you up and turn you into the person that you become, I think that just has a certain type of pain with it.
It shook me greatly when I got the news from Jacob about his mom's passing. I just didn't know what to say. I mean, what could I say that could even convey how sorry I was? And when I was trying to find the words to say to him, I sort of had to come to terms with the mortality of my own parents, and that was almost more traumatizing than actually losing a parent. Coming to that conclusion is a really hard thing to do. Your parents have been with you your entire life, have shaped pretty much every aspect of you, and losing someone that has been so close to you and with you pretty much at all times for most of your life is a major, major shakeup. So I was there for my dad's continual decline in health as of recent, but my brother wasn't. He had moved to Arizona for a new job, and he was really only getting the information about it from my mom and I telling him what was going on. And so, being so geographically far away during such an interesting and trying time, I wanted to see what his perspective on the whole process was.
So my name's Grant Molman. I am 28. I work for a big paying audit company, and I lost my dad. I think about him every day, and there are certain things that make me think about him more. But I think it's important to give yourself a little bit of time to just cry every once in a while. And for me, if I like turn on country music or something like that, a lot of times like that's when all those thoughts come back, and that's when I'll take 15, 20 minutes and just cry for a while. I think the feelings you don't know you have, or don't realize you have, can get pent up, and that's when you kind of need to take. Yeah, I don't have any regrets or anything like that, so that definitely helped. It's okay for things to not be like how they would be in a movie. It's not going to be glamorous, or it might not be super dramatic. Everybody's different, you know. don't be surprised or ashamed about how you do or don't feel or things you do or don't do. Because, yeah, everybody's different. Everybody who dies is different, and your relationship with them is different. So I would say just be true to yourself. Um, yeah, I think that would be my advice. Like I said, like there are things that I have done that, it sounds bad to say, but if Dad were still around, if he had not died, I wouldn't have done. His death kind of inspired me to be the best version of myself, and if I had not experienced that or gone through it, then I'd be in the same old place, so things have a way of working out that way too. I feel like he's near me spiritually, and I have a different connection with him that I didn't have when he was alive.
Family is all we've got, really. My brother and I have very different personalities, so we sort of tend to clash often. But this summer, when it was just him, me, and my mom, it was all love. Sides of all of us that I didn't even know we had started to show as time progressed. And time is usually the hardest part of the grieving process, as it sets in that their physical form, the method with which we communicated with them for so long and identified them as, is no longer here. I felt especially bad for my mom, though, because immediately after the summer ended, my brother moved back down to Arizona. I moved back up to college with a bunch of my buddies in a house. And she doesn't have as much of an active circle of friends as I do and my brother has. So she was left with pretty much just my dog, who is definitely a companion but isn't much of a conversationalist. So I wanted to get her perspective on what grief was like when both of your boys are so far away. That again.
Oh, my baby girl. Let me have a kiss. Let me have a kiss. Mommy, let me have a kiss. Yeah, go. Yeah. Go. My name is Annette Molman. I'm age 60, unfortunately. And I am currently going through some grief. My husband passed away in July from chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So he was diagnosed with this chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is a very slow-growing, sort of one of the, I guess, less fatal, I guess you would think of it as long-term chronic illness. And he was diagnosed at 28.
Which is
when we got married.
Very, very, way too early, right?
Very, very young. But he had his chemotherapy and everything back then. And it was what you call indolent, which is it's not in remission. You can still see it, but it's not really active. It's just kind of lingering there. So we had sort of thought that we had beaten it. But it just, in the last maybe year, his health, kind of deteriorated just generally. They didn't really think it was leukemia, but just little things that he couldn't get over. Eventually, it got really bad in the last maybe 3 months, where he was very immobile and he broke his ankle at one point, which really took a hit on his immunity. Your immunity has to fight it all the time, and if something else compromises your immunity, I think it's easier for the disease to kind of pop back up. But there's a lot of different emotions that come up when you're grieving. Other members of your immediate family, it was really terrible too, but you really don't know kind of the depth of it till you lose a spouse, and I'm sure a child would feel the same way. But it's a different animal because every day you support each other emotionally and physically. It's the presence of the person is so ingrained in your day-to-day life that it's kind of a different animal. It's deeper and darker. that's what life is. Everybody's suffering in some way or another. And so it does give you a deeper compassion for other people's suffering in general.
So what about Mimi?
She's my little buddy. An animal spirit, their consciousness, they're just their being, their presence. It is so enlightening and it's so comforting just to have that some little life, a life around.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very in sync with my emotions. When I cry, she just wants to eat up all my sadness. She comes and just licks all the sadness off my eyes, and she just wants to heal you so badly.
So she helps out a lot.
She's like a big stuffed animal to hold and love and cuddle.
Mm-hmm.
I always loved stuffed animals and dolls as a kid, and she's like one big furry doll, and you just play with her and hold her and talk to her and look in her eyes.
Mimi is a real sweetheart. You know, I can talk and talk and talk and tell you about what some other people face, but none of it will ever live up to the real thing. As I said before, it's different for everyone, but when it hits, and it'll hit hard, you have to realize when you're wading through hell, screaming at the top of your lungs, wishing that it never happened, that you will get out of it okay. It seems impossible in the moment, I know, but it is simply the truth. Time will make some wounds sting, but it will heal others. Joy, love, passion, and whatever else it is you want to feel will come back to you with time. You owe it to yourself to stick through to the end. And you owe it to everyone else too. You've got people rooting for you. They're in your corner. And they want to see you get out of this adversity as much as you want to get out of it. And believe me, you will get out of it. I promise. To my dad, I love you, Buddy Bear. I've got some of your ashes right here with me on the desk, and I've still got the crucifix and the little necklace you got me. And to all those who we've lost, your legacy lives on. You'll be